They laughed the first time her shovel struck stone instead of soil, the sound echoing across the mountain like a challenge. It was late afternoon, the sky already turning steel gray, and the wind carried that sharp bite that warned winter was closer than anyone wanted to admit. Trucks slowed on the narrow road below as neighbors stared at the sight of a lone woman digging straight into mountainside, carving a dark opening where no house was supposed to be. They shook their heads, some amused, some annoyed, convinced they were watching a mistake being made in real time. None of them understood that this mountain was not her enemy. It was her plan. Before we go any further, take a moment to like this video, comment, share it, and subscribe to the channel if you believe in the silent hero, in second chances, and in people who keep going even when the world laughs at their dreams. Her name was Margaret Collins, and she had not always lived among snow and stone. She grew up in Oregon, raised in a modest Christian home where faith was quiet but steady, and where her father taught her that wisdom often looks strange to people who only followed habit. Margaret became a structural engineer, one of the few women in her field, and spent years designing buildings she never truly loved. Then life collapsed in ways she never planned for. Her husband died suddenly from an undiagnosed heart condition, leaving her with grief that felt heavier than any concrete she had ever calculated. The city became unbearable. Every corner carried memories. Every sound reminded her of loss. When an opportunity came to buy cheap land in the Colorado mountains, she took it without fully knowing why. She only knew she needed space to breathe. The land was steep, rocky, and unpopular. Winters that were brutal, isolating, and long. The neighbors who already lived in the area built traditional cabins lower on the slope, closer to the road, closer to help. Margaret chose a spot higher up, where the mountain curved inward like a sheltering shoulder. She had studied earth-sheltered homes for years, fascinated by how the ground could protect against extreme temperatures. While others fought winter with thicker walls and louder heaters, she planned to work with nature instead of against it. Her design was simple in theory, but demanding in execution. She would dig her home into the mountain itself, using the earth as insulation, stability, and strength. From the beginning, people doubted her. Some laughed openly. Others offered sarcastic advice disguised as concern. They said the mountain would collapse, that water would flood her home, that she would freeze or suffocate. Margaret listened, nodded politely, and kept working. Every morning she woke before sunrise, prayed quietly, and picked up her shovel. Progress was slow and painful. Stone resisted every inch. Her hands blistered, her back ached, and there were days when exhaustion brought tears she quickly wiped away. Money ran low as equipment rentals added up. She took freelance engineering work at night, her laptop glowing dimly inside a temporary shed while cold crept in around her. As summer faded into fall, the excavation deepened and took shape. Reinforced walls went up. Drainage systems were installed with precision only someone who truly understood failure could manage. Margaret worked with the patience of someone who had already survived the worst kind of loss. Doubt visited her often in quiet hours, whispering that maybe the laughter was deserved, maybe grief had driven her too far. But every time she stepped inside the carved space and felt the steady, calm temperature, she knew she was right. By the time the first snow fell, her home was sealed except for a thick, reinforced entrance facing the sun. Inside, it was quiet in a way that felt sacred. The mountain absorbed sound, fear, and cold alike. While neighbors fired up their heaters and stacked firewood high, Margaret used very little energy to keep warm. The earth did most of the work for her. Still, the jokes continued whenever she passed others on the road. They called a cave, a bunker, a grave waiting to be filled. She smiled and said nothing. Then winter arrived like a punishment no one expected. The storm came early and violent, dumping snow faster than forecast predicted. Winds howled for days, cutting power lines and blocking roads. Temperatures plunged far below normal. Cabins groaned under the weight of snow, and heaters struggled to keep up. Firewood disappeared faster than planned. Panic crept in quietly, one frozen pipe and dead generator at a time. The road out of the valley vanished completely, buried under drifts taller than trucks. Inside the mountain, Margaret's home barely noticed a change. The temperature remained steady, warm, and calm, while the world outside turned hostile. Her walls radiated stored heat, and the small stove she installed rarely needed feeding. When her emergency radio crackled with warnings before falling silent, she understood that help was not coming anytime soon. She stepped outside into blinding white and biting wind, pulling her coat tight as she made her way down the slope toward the cabins. What she found shook her. Families huddled in dark rooms. Elderly neighbors struggled to keep warm. Children cried from cold and fear. Pride kept some from asking for help, but desperation was winning. One by one, she guided them up the mountain, through snow that burned their lungs, toward the place they once mocked. Inside the earth-sheltered home, warmth wrapped around them like mercy. People stared in disbelief as frost melted from their coats and breath slowed. There was light, hot food, and safety. Margaret organized quietly, rationing supplies, calming children, offering blankets and reassurance. She did not remind anyone of their laughter. She did not need to. Survival taught its own lessons. Days passed. The storm trapped them all together, strangers bound by necessity and humility. Stories were shared. Apologies were whispered. Respect replaced mockery. When rescue crews finally reached the valley, they found a community changed by what the mountain had revealed. After winter loosened its grip, neighbors rebuilt with new understanding. Earth shelter designs were discussed seriously. Margaret was asked for advice, her knowledge finally seen for what it was. She shared freely, her heart lighter than it had been in years. In building her home, she had rebuilt herself. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that faith, patience, and quiet courage can save lives, please like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel so more people can hear stories like this. Before we end, comment below and tell us about a time you were doubted for doing something different and how it turned out. Because sometimes the safest place in the harshest winter is not the one everyone agrees on, but the one built by someone brave enough to dig deep, trust God's wisdom, and keep going when laughter is all they hear.